I'd like to start the afternoon session. I'll be serving as the moderator. My name is Hamana from the Secretariat. The title of the first session in the afternoon is DX Innovation and Introduction of Japan's Technologies and Expectations. Japanese private companies have excellent products and technologies in various fields and have the potential to contribute to solving social and economic issues in developing countries. Especially in the field of the environment, Japanese companies are expected to contribute with their digital transformation technologies, innovations, and groundbreaking ideas, leading to diverse business opportunities in developing countries. In this session, we will discuss the use and expectations for Japanese technologies in JICA projects, including initiatives in projects to realize clean cities in Kenya, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. The presentations will be given by 5 speakers on the potential contribution of environmental management technologies such as waste management and air pollution control in consideration of climate change measures. First, we will hear from Mr. Akihiro MIYAZAKI, Deputy Director General of the Global Environment Department of JICA. Then we will hear from Mr. Ryota Okiguchi, Associate Expert at the Global Environment Department, JICA, the Environmental Management and Climate Change Group. And then we will have Mr. Koji Imaeshima, Deputy Director of the Global Environment Department. Then Mr. Ichiro Adachi, JICA Expert. And then Mr. Hisahiro Takahagi, Fujifilm Business Innovation Corporation Recycling Business Development General Manager. After the presentations, there will be time for Q&A for all of the afternoon presentations. So during the presentations, if you are watching via Zoom, please send your questions from the chat box. Also, please write your name and affiliation with the question. If you're here in the hall, please write your question on a piece of paper and raise your hand, and the member of the Secretariat will come to pick it up. Now, Mr. MIYAZAKI, please. Good afternoon. Pleased to be here. I'm MIYAZAKI from the Environmental Management Group, Global Environment Department. So we have this JICA Clean City initiative and doing various projects overseas. Now, we collaborate with Japanese companies and Japanese technology. So what is our relationship with the Japanese companies and technologies? I'll give you that high-level overview. Then we'll hear about the Kenya, Bangladesh, Vietnam, the specific potential and actual current conditions, situations in various countries. So those amongst those who are watching, there might be some who are thinking about going overseas or collaborating with us. So for those people, I hope to provide some clues and ideas to stimulate your thinking. So I would be very grateful if I can provide useful information for that. So I will give you that overview. Now, JICA Clean City Initiative and how that relates to you is what I would like to discuss. First of all, JICA Clean City Initiative, we do the agenda setting. So we build the strategy and that information to be shared and so that collaboration can be done. So upper right, you see that we do seminars to share information. So it's a part of the platform activities. So through that, we try to share information. And it's not enough for us to tackle the global agenda. Our capabilities alone are not sufficient, so we need partner organizations. So we work together with these partners. We think that is quite important. Now, in each of the developing countries or the region or the cities, the issues become clearer through these activities. So how to solve or overcome those issues. Well, at that point, again, we cannot move forward alone. So in the developing countries, new technologies and innovations and DX, so technologies that is good for the climate change needs to be introduced. So what you see on the lower left, market creation becomes necessary. So Japanese companies and technologies, we want to try to understand well and introduce them into the developing countries. We think that process is important. So you have the 4 quadrants, and so we have to have a good grasp of the situation. And so we need to collect information, provide feedback that's fed back into the strategy, and then we think about the next steps for further collaboration. So we think that cycle is quite necessary. Here, you see JICA's operations is sort of the menu of the operations that we provide. So there is technical cooperation, and then there's the ODA loans, that is the finance and investment cooperation, and then there is grants. So those are the 3 main pillars of our operations. I think for those of you in the private sector, in terms of your relationship with JICA, well, today those people are not speaking, but we have this department for collaborating with the private sector, and I think I guess you would think that that would be the main organization. But the ODA loans and technical cooperation, that's where your technology will become very important, and those operations are very important for us. So we'll talk about some examples, and we'll talk about how you can collaborate with us at JICA. So moving on. Today, I'd like to focus on technical cooperation projects. So technical cooperation, basically, it's about training and dispatching experts and also providing equipment. So those 3 are packaged into technical cooperation. So when we talk about technical cooperation projects, the main part of that would be about providing technology transfer to governments and people. And so through human resource development, also we are engaged in formulating development plans. That's part of the technical cooperation. So making plans and strategy, I think that's where you can really capitalize on Japanese experience. And that's also where Japanese technology can be utilized to lead to better planning. Next page. So quite simply, shows the situation. In technical cooperation, we assist in plan development, and also we do human resource development, and also we do pilot projects often. And in doing pilot projects, Japanese knowledge and experience is quite useful. So Japanese technology and products are utilized to lay the foundation for future activities. That is how this often takes shape. So we formulate a plan and we do a pilot project using Japanese technology. And so that would lead to a future development. And so there is the ODA loans, financial assistance. Usually it would be quite large projects. And the foundation for the planning is the technical cooperation in many cases. And a similar situation for the grants as well. Now, conversely, for grants and loans, sometimes they start projects, but in terms of human resource development or capacity, it may be lacking in the partner country. Then from the loan program, through technical cooperation, we can provide additional assistance in human resource development and technical development. So these are the three items on the menu which are interrelated and utilized to promote our operations. Now, I'd like to introduce you to some examples. So this is a Bangkok example in Thailand. So climate change master plan was drawn up. So in the morning, the Yokohama City representative explained about this. So with the cooperation of Yokohama City, we participated in the formulation of the climate change master plan, and many sectors were conducting activities in parallel, and especially those who contribute to climate change, that would be the transportation, energy, those would be the major sectors. So we would interact with those industries. And in terms of adaptation, as you see on the right, SATREP's operations are used. So looking at the current situation, and you do a survey about the potential of a future state, and then you would apply that, and then you would enhance capacity through technological cooperation. So that would be that kind of example. So these are the major projects that you see. Urban railways, so especially transportation. This contributes very much to climate change countermeasures. Some of the projects are already conducted, so the essence of that is reflected in the master plan. So by having interaction amongst the projects, knowledge from each can be reflected in the new plans, and then projects can be developed from those plans. So it's an iterative process, and in that process, Japanese technology and experience can be utilized. That is what actually happens on ground.
And so that's technical cooperation. Together with the menu items on the left, there's some public-private partnerships. Like I said earlier, these are partnerships that we work with the private, and there's a separate department in charge of this, so that we can use the Japanese knowledge, expertise, and experience and expand that to the overseas countries. Now, there are things that I cannot talk about today since they're being worked on right now, but I wanted to give you an overview. Just very briefly talk about the results that we have achieved and the track record that we have. And so I have been talking about is JICA being active in developing nations, working on the issues related to development and providing these nations with proposed solutions. And to do that, we have experts and we conduct surveys to really understand those situations. And that's what JICA does. On the other hand, Japanese companies had developed their experience and expertise in Japan, and some representatives, speakers today come from these companies, but we are working with these companies and harmonizing in these nations to move forward. Whether it's through the 96 overseas JICA offices or directly with the countries, it's very important to really understand their context and propose solutions and get the necessary technologies from private companies and Japanese companies so that this can be provided to the nations that need them. Next page, please. In developing countries, this is the inflow of funds described in the form of a graph. And as you can see at the very bottom in blue is the ODA. After 2000, it has not really grown and increased, as you can read from this chart. In yellow is personal remittances, which is increasing gradually, but what's increasing greatly is others. Private companies are making direct investment and they're conducting business locally, and that's what is understood from this graph. And as you can see, there are things that we can do, but there's a limit to what we can do, and that's very clear from this graph. So when you think about the development of these developing nations, Japanese technologies and the Japanese private companies need to contribute, and unless we work with them, it probably will not be achieved. And I think that is what we can understand from this piece of information and this graph. Next page, please. Now, this is about the current market situation. Japan is struggling in terms of GDP per capita, as you all know. And I know this is difficult to see because the letters are so small, but to the right of this chart is Japan. And then the more you go to the left, you can see the developing nations, and you have many. From the left, Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. And so the Asian developing nations are lined up in terms of the growth of GDP. So, in a sense, this is where you can probably see business opportunities and big opportunities. These developing nations currently may have a small business opportunity now, but this has potential to grow. So you need to consider about the future as you expand your business in these developing nations, and that could be very significant for your future. And there are a couple of sample examples here to the right. One from Rwanda and one from Kenya. So it's not just in Asia, but in Africa as well. These partnerships with private companies are being seen, and the number of these projects are on the rise. Next page, please. So, this is the current status of JICA's partnership. Since 2021, because we improved our system, the number of cases are not growing that much, but the partnership itself is in fact growing with private companies. So a lot of private companies have supported us, and currently more than 1,500 cases have been worked on so far. And in some projects, like I said, there's technical cooperation that we include, or we include financial assistance. So it's not just the private, public-private partnership, but I think we as JICA need to work on these areas as a whole. So this is my last page. From the current understanding, this is our partnership by target area and by sectors. So currently, the target area is Southeast Asia, and a lot of it is in Southeast Asia, and then South Asia. Africa, I know that there's room for growth and there's room for partnerships. So it's still small, but we hope to expand that into the future. And then when we look at the sectors, as you can see, in dark red are the sectors that JCCI is engaged in: environment, waste management, and water purification and treatment. So these technologies are the technologies that we see a lot now. But on the other hand, it means that there's a lot of demand in those areas. And so JCCI, there are direct JICA projects. So if we can work with those projects in these partnerships, I think it would be great. And we'll talk about the examples from Kenya, Bangladesh, and also Vietnam. with the following presentations. So hopefully you can listen to those presentations to see what kind of possible partnerships there might be into the future. And that would be my hope. And with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much indeed. Mr. Miyazaki, thank you very much.
Next, Okiguchi-san, please. Please show the slide. Thank you. I am from JICA, Environmental Management and Climate Change Group, Global Environment Department. I am Ryota Okiguchi. So in order to realize clean cities in Kenya, we are providing technologies for promoting circular economy. So let me talk about the technology. So I am a junior expert of waste management, and I work for JICA. And from next week and month, we are going to start a new project in Kenya. So as an expert in waste management, I am going to be sent to Kenya. That was my brief introduction. Today, I have 3 points that I would like to cover. First is in Kenya, the overview of waste management and the upcoming project in Kenya that JICA put together. And number 3, along with JICA, I hope that this will trigger for partnership, but what are promising technology for promoting circular model that could be used in Kenya. So I'd like to give you an overview of waste management first. So these are the pictures that I took in Kenya. On far right, Nairobi is very well developed, and there is a national park. You can see animals there, and city and nature are combined together. Very beautiful city. On the other hand, the remaining 3 pictures, you can see a lot of issues remain when it comes to waste management. In order to understand the overview, I'd like to share with you the flow of the waste. In case of Nairobi, a underestimate 3,000 tons of waste is being generated, out of which 65% or 60% are collected in one way or the other, and the recycling rate is about 15%. So this is clear from UN Habitat survey. And in fact, JICA is trying to put together a project, and this triggered this effort. And the circular economy and waste management, Kenya is believed to be at a turning point. So new system is about to kick in. And on far right, you can see the flow by 2023. Kenya had a vision, and by 2030, this is extremely important. They have a national goal, and also Sustainable Waste Management Act. This was enacted last year and promulgated in 22. So this is to promote appropriate waste management and for resource recycling. The government, the local government, the civilians, and businesses rules were defined. And in Sustainable Waste Management Act, extended producer responsibility has been incorporated, and this is yet to be promulgated, but into a final draft. So I went to Kenya several times and have done research. And what are some of the characteristics in Kenya? I could name 3 here. At the very top, you can see the photo, but when it comes to waste management, they're in the initial stage, so collection and managing the final landfill. They have a lot of issues in the city, 60%, and there is no ultimate waste disposal sites. But on the other hand, the growth of private sector companies is significant. So as you can see, PT recycle products are being produced, and they're trying to develop their sales channels. And number three is to structure circular economy. There are players getting together. So, for instance, PRO, this is Producer Recycle Organization. They're already active, and these PROs are subsidizing private companies. And okay, then what are some of the activities undertaken by private sectors? So, for instance, this is an example. Within a city, buyback centers have been opened. On the left, you can see the photo. Also, informal sector come from bring valuable materials, and through QR code, they are being purchased. Next. And these material are mainly recovered by informal sector. And these are some of the pictures that you can see them collecting or recovering. So there is a relay station, and they collect what has value. And on the right, you can see the waste pickers collecting at landfill sites, and the buyers come to purchase them. And those bottom photos, there are, of course, uncollected wastes. I would assume that those waste that recyclers want, I'm sure there are waste that could be recycled even more. However, the waste pickers are not aware of those wastes. So, JICA is planning a technical cooperation project, and I would like to introduce to you. So, starting from March next year, the plan is 5 years. This is to promote circular model, and this is for environmentally sound solid waste management. So, counterpart organizations are mainly Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry, and also license issuer of Kenya called NEMA. So there are a lot of activities involved in recycling. Therefore, we have a lot of parties involved, and we will be carrying out this project in Nairobi City, Kiambu County, Mombasa County. And this is the design of the project. Overall goal, and in the second, you can see project purpose. This is what we hope to achieve in this 5-year period, a material recovery system in urban area. So Nairobi, Kiambu, and Mombasa, we will have a lot of pilot projects. We will gather information and knowledge and share throughout Kenya. Next, please. So what kind of pilot projects are we going to carry out? We have to work on the design of pilot projects. But perhaps to give you an understanding, I would like to give you an example. So material collection, if we think about this simplistically, there are generators, and you can see three. Some are collected by informal collectors, and some are collected by private collectors, and some are collected by public collectors. And then what Kenya is trying to focus on is this MRF, the Material Recovery Facility. And they want to have this facility in each city and county. So organic and others, or the metals that could be sold at a high value. If this facility can separate and categorize all these wastes, then the recyclers will be able to recycle them and make it into a product, maybe. So this MRF, we are helping the putting together the technical document of MRF and also analyzing the financials necessary for this project. And we also identify regions and hopefully collect the organic materials. So this is the final section, but I'd like to talk about promising technologies to promote circular model. So when I visited Kenya, I met with private recyclers. I visited their sites, and as I had discussion with private sector, I heard a lot of comments. For instance, on far left, they already have existing facilities, but they want to upgrade. They want ideas to do that. And the one in the center, from EU and Japan, uh, they are interested in knowing state-of-the-art equipments and technologies. And on the far right, these are flakes, the recycled products, but in order to improve the quality of these recycled materials, what can they do? That's what they're interested in knowing. So, in order to establish a circular society, I hope I want to leave with you three key words. In addition to the comments from the private sector, what are necessary elements for a circular society? So this is on a personal note, but first is information sharing from the generators and then on to several processes. It goes to the recycler. What kind of waste are efficient in recycling, and what would be the best way to sort these waste, and in what way should it be processed? And so these information are not being cascaded down to the recycler. So we need a mechanism to share information. And next is MRF that Kenya government is focusing on. So the amount coming in and outgoing will have to be estimated. And finally, material recycling technologies. So I believe three will be necessary. And this is an illustration based on the discussion that I had. First is information sharing. The waste or materials that recyclers are looking for. So maybe using mobile app or using DX technologies so that these information will be shared with the collectors. And second is to use MRF. We are going to use MRF, but the amount of waste coming into MRF, use those data to analyze the cost and the recycled materials, and eventually to raise the quality of recycled materials. So these are private sector companies. They do this for profit. So that's the incentive. So let's say highest quality PET bottle, so-called horizontal recycling is being carried out. This is gaining traction in Japan, for instance. So in order to raise to this level, what are needed? So we have to share technologies and information so that they can realize this approach. And so finally, some practical cases. This is a city in Kenya called Mombasa, and this initiative is already underway. Baus Taka developed a mobile app. It's a local company, and you can buy and sell plastics using this mobile app. So what kind of plastics are recyclers looking for? So the seller can share this information. And Tobe company in Japan has a PET recycling factory in Kenya, and this is already in operation, and they can raise the quality of recycled PET to very close to a virgin PET bottle. So that's another example. So thank you very much for your kind attention. With JICA project, we want to cooperate with private sector companies and to realize circular economy in Kenya. We hopefully would like to offer a platform so that all stakeholders will be able to cooperate. Thank you very much. Okiguchi-san, thank you very much.
Next, Mr. Maeshima, please. Let me begin. I'm Maeshima from Environmental Management and Climate Change Group. I'd like to talk about initiatives to achieve clean cities in Bangladesh. So there's this Clean Dhaka project, and that's been talked about in various circles. I think so many of you have heard about it, but currently it covers not just the waste, but also air pollution and sewage. So we're trying to achieve a clean city by expanding the scope to those areas. So this is one of the countries that we are really focusing on at the Environmental Management Group. So you see the recent history of our cooperation. So for waste, from around 2000, more than 20 years we have had cooperation. In more recent years, it covers not just waste, but the development of sewage system and working on water pollution and air pollution. So cooperation starting in those areas as well. From this year, 2024, focus is going to be on waste and air pollution. So new project is going to be started for that. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the waste and air pollution to simultaneously work on those projects. So in order to achieve clean cities, various stakeholders need to be involved. Central government, local government. So these collaboration amongst these various levels of government, I think is important for one thing. So here you see the various entities and their roles. For example, for solid waste management, collection and transport and final disposal and planning, those should be done by the local governments, the city corporations. That's how it's positioned. So know-how and experience accumulated at the municipality level. And to work on this at national level, and from 2021, there's the solid waste management rules that's been introduced. And so under this, the local government information to be collected at the Ministry of Environment at the central government level so that a more national approach can be taken. And also working with waste power can be introduced, and Ministry of Energy will be involved. So various agencies and collaborations amongst them at the central government will also be important. At the bottom, you see air pollution, so monitoring and planning and policy making about air pollution. Ministry of the Environment would mainly be in charge, but in actually implementing air pollution policy collaboration with infrastructure, energy, and transportation agencies, so various other agencies, and also at the local city level, in implementing the measures, they will also play a big part. So good collaboration amongst these entities are important. And by looking at the waste and air pollution in a uniform manner, it will also help to strengthen the collaboration amongst the various agencies. So here, I'd like to talk about the solid waste from 2003. As a JICA project, it started in a full-fledged manner. It's a clean DACA master plan. And technological cooperation has been provided as a grant aid. In phase 2, there's been technical cooperation that's been started, master plan revision, and multiple pilot projects, and not just Dhaka, but cooperation to Chotgram city also started. From 2024, third phase is planned to start. In that technical cooperation, volume reduction of waste and sustainable society building are the areas of focus for cooperation. This shows the overall flow of waste. So from waste generation, collection, transport, intermediate treatment to final disposal. In this flow, in terms of technical cooperation, we focus on collection and transport, and also management of final disposal site, and also creating master plan to oversee this entire process areas where we conducted cooperation. And the garbage trucks to be provided, and for management of a final disposal site, we provide grants, and so we have been cooperating in that way. At the waste generation level, to do a collection from homes, you need environmental education, and JICA volunteers have to be engaged. So we collaborated with them. And going forward, the utilization of DX and collaboration with private sector will become necessary. So in this flow, in which part can we utilize DX and have collaboration with the private sector? That is what I would like to explain in the following pages. First, collection of garbage. So as a first step to make the city clean, we did cooperation for many years for garbage collection, and the collection rate has now improved from 44% in 2004 to 85% in 2021. So remarkable increase there. And as you see on the left, uh, uh, previously there was a lot of garbage, but now it's much less visible in the city. So containers were introduced, large container trucks, and also compactors or the garbage trucks were introduced utilizing the grant aid cooperation. And currently, not ODA, but on a business basis, Japanese compactors are being introduced into the local market. And the Dhaka city has provided cooperation and initiatives. So there's GPS installed on the garbage trucks so that you can understand how it's being operated, and you can then enhance the efficiency of the operations. A final disposal site, previously it was open dumping. You just took the garbage and piled it up, but based on various cooperation initiatives, a more hygiene management of the site has become possible. And currently, uh, in order to understand the remaining life of the site, drones are used to calculate how many years remaining. So that kind of technological cooperation has also been conducted. First, resident participatory waste management. So there's the ward-based approach, WBA. In Dhaka Clean Dhaka project, this forms the foundation of the various activities. So in Dhaka city, where population density is very high, collection is done by a ward. It's an administrative unit, ward. So in pursuing that kind of approach, dialogue and education of and with residents have been important, and also joint effort collaboration with cleaners and collectors were important. That led to the big increase in collection rate. And the DX is used, and the app has been developed, allowing citizens to report illegal dumping. So new technologies have been introduced for further improvement. So there's a lot of energy toward using technology for improvement. Next, talking about the intermediate treatment, this is for the future. And so in drawing up the Dhaka Master Plan, Eco-Town concept was included, and waste to power and the composting and recycle facilities were included in the plan. And in the cooperation to date, incinerator for medical waste has been introduced as a pilot, and we want to further develop such projects. And in realizing Ecotown concept, using not just ODA, collaboration with the private sector is going to be very important, and recycling and to have efficient intermediate treatment cooperation from the residents going to be very important. So such cooperation we want to promote in the projects. So this will be the summary for the waste management. So in the future project to come, I talked about the main points to create sustainable society and to reduce volume of waste. And also we focused on Dhaka city, but in phase 3, utilizing the experience of Dhaka, we want to expand cooperation in the city of Chotgram as well. And not just Chotgram, but we want to further expand this to other cities as well so that they may benefit from this concept. So that's the project concept. And so waste management rule that's been recently introduced that well, based on that, information at the municipality level ought to be collected at the central government, Ministry of Environment. And so there is need for data process and DX and the use of new innovation. So there's expectation for that. Next, I'd like to talk about the air pollution. This is based on WHO data, shows that Dhaka is one of the worst cities in terms of air pollution. And this shows the overview of the air pollution control and countermeasures. So first, you have to do monitoring and analysis to understand the current situation. Based on that data, formulate strategy and policy, and based on that strategy, implement the measures. Then you should evaluate the outcome, and then continue that cycle. Now, Bangladesh, we're going to start the air pollution cooperation. So first emphasis is for monitoring. So we'll provide various facilities using grant and aid. And also amongst the technical cooperation, the capacity building for monitoring will be the focus. And Bangladesh already has the strategy and plan, so we should make best use of that. And thus, we should provide support to implement the new law and also to strengthen organizations. That will be done under the scope of technical cooperation. And also, collaboration with the private sector is an important element. We'd like to talk about that. First, about the air quality monitoring with cooperation from other donors as well. So continuous air monitoring stations already introduced. And especially alongside with a lot of traffic, the shortage of equipment. So we're going to introduce them there and provide technical cooperation so that people can use this effectively. Next is emission source monitoring. You don't know what's the concentration of the emissions coming out of the factory. So using these equipment in Bangladesh, local people can measure so that they know the concentration of the flue gas coming out of these chimney stacks. And here, well, this is an extension of the project. We're hoping for academic collaboration. So air pollution, well, already on the left, there's this AQI, air quality index, looking at the current air pollution. That kind of data is already published. So taking that data and other data as well, we do analysis for where is the source, and you would need sophisticated labs and equipment, and of course some of the pollution coming from across the border. So you need academic research on that. So through collaboration with other partners, we like to develop those initiatives. And the air pollution countermeasures, what can actually be done, that is being studied in this project. So what are the major source sectors that should be identified? And for those sectors, guidelines should be developed, and how to promote the measures for the businesses. We shall provide advice on that. So we hope to do all of that in the project. For steel mills, brick kilns, power plants, they are the major sources. So in order to create manufacturing that's good for the environment, there's a lot of expectation for Japanese technology to be introduced. So we hope to make those connections there. And finally, this is the summary slide. So in environmental management in Bangladesh, we're going to focus simultaneously on air pollution and waste, and we're going to try to realize green cities. And the capacity development is going to be the focus. So strengthening human resources going to be very important. So we have experienced 20 years in Dhaka and the capacity building. So using that experience, we like to work together for cleaner cities. And other donors and private sector, we want to formulate partnerships so that we can maximize the effect of these measures and clean cities. Well, in Dhaka, the city has already become much more beautiful, but we want to take that further, including responding to air pollution. And we want to establish that kind of model and then introduce it to neighboring countries or other regions. Already, people from Africa are visiting Bangladesh and for a study tour, and we shall increase the number of such opportunities so that there will be further development. That would be all from myself. Thank you so much. Mr. Maishima, thank you very much.
Next, Mr. Adachi, can you come up front, please? Thank you for that introduction. I am a JICA expert in Vietnam, and my name is Adachi. Thank you for having me. So, the two sessions talked about JICA cooperation. Now, in my session, I will talk about not exactly JICA's cooperation, but the circular economy efforts and the status quo of that in the ASEAN nations. And ASEAN and in Vietnam, utilizing Japanese technologies to contribute to a circular economy is what we see with Fujifilm Business Innovation. And that is the specific project that we would like to present you with, which is an example of a project with a private company. So you've heard 2, 3 presentations. I'm sorry, can you go to the next slide, please? You are probably understanding that technology from private companies were required, and these areas were considered as areas that the government should be in charge of, but that has no longer been the case. Now, in the World Economic Forum, these are the global risks. This is the 2023 report. So for short and long term, environmental risks are considered global risks, and therefore it's not just the government that needs to work on these issues. These are matters where private companies also need to work on. I think in the last 3 or 4 years, this has been the major change that we have seen. Now, moving on. The Bangladesh and Kenya examples were explained earlier, but recycling and the circular economy are being worked on. Up until now, it was more linear, raw material production, usage, and then waste. So that economic system was linear, but now it's more towards circular economy to go full circle. there. And I think that economic development is being pursued and the models are being changed in the ASEAN nations as well as other developing nations, according to what I heard earlier, in Africa as well. So these efforts have started. So next slide, please. And already in ASEAN nations, discussions around the circular economy has started in 2021. Like you see here, the framework of circular economy for the ASEAN economic community was put together. So ASEAN overall, or as a whole, is working on a circular economy, and this is the framework that they confirmed. Now, let us look at some of the specific countries: Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Myanmar being compared against Japan here. But already, the circular economy, we've been talking about this in JICA, about waste management was developed. And when you look at just policies around that within the ASEAN nations, there are policies related to circular economy, and that is something that is already in place. Moving on. Now, since I am working in Vietnam, I'd like to talk a little bit about the status quo of Vietnam. As you know, Vietnam is growing economically very rapidly. And when it comes to waste, there are big efforts being made and development has been seen in the area. And as you can read here, before 2016, there was still not a clear um, description around circular economy and material circulation. However, since then, this has been made clear. And from 2016 to 2020, in their socio-economic development plan, and then the National Congress from 2021, for the current 5-year socioeconomic development plan, they talk about achieving an economic development based on a circular economy. And together with this, in 2022, there was a revision of the economic protection law, the law of the rather the environmental protection. So EPR, which was talked about earlier, the extended producer responsibility. In other words, the producer will not just take responsibility of the production and usage, but all the way to the recycling and disposal, and also things like the banning of single-use plastics and segregation of waste at the source. Moving on. I'm sorry, this is what I was talking about. So this is the situation. I'm sorry, next page, please. So, with that said, this is what the definition of a circular economy is in Vietnam. But the important thing here is that it is an economic model. In other words, the circular economy is an economic model that circulates resources or materials. That is made very clear. And this is very clearly stated, therefore, in the socio-economic development plan that I mentioned earlier. So let's take a look at the policies and systems in Vietnam around circular economy. In a simplified diagram, there's input of raw materials, there's a production process, and then there's transportation and consumption, and then the total recycle system. So this is how materials flow. But how does this get connected? And it says here, incentivizing a circular economic development, but linking all of these pieces becomes key in realizing a circular economy. Moving on to the next slide. And so, like I have been saying, in Vietnam, I'm sorry, designing products for circularity, creating efficient recycling systems, establishing collaborative networks, and incentivizing sustainable consumer behavior. Changing that consumer behavior are 4 important points that have been identified as challenges for implementing the circular economy. And on the right, there are the categories described. But in Vietnam, there are action plans and systems in place already, meaning that the government and systems, mechanisms are being established, and in order for this to grow as an economic model, it's a matter of how business is conducted in this environment. That becomes key. Next slide, please. For example, in Japan, when we look at the relationship diagram of necessary things to consider, these are the roles that are played by each of the ministries and organizations in a circular economy. And I won't go into the details here, but from upstream all the way to downstream, there are various policies and systems, and each of the ministries play a different role. And coordinating and connecting all of this is very important as business is conducted, because that does become a challenge. And still, this is a challenge in Japan too. Next slide, please. So here we look at the policies and laws of Vietnam and how that developed over time related to circular economy. In 2012, there was already a Vietnam Sustainable Development Strategy, and then in 2014, the law on environmental protection was amended, and then the law on environmental protection came in 2020. And so, as we saw from the Bangladesh example, in developing nations, we are seeing a development of these areas in the developing nations. And I think we need to start from that recognition. Next slide, please. I will not explain this in detail, but for example, when implementing the EPR system, this is the material that was made by a Vietnamese organization, but in the LEP 2020, I mean, up until then, it was all voluntary and trial based towards a circular economy, but now it is more obligatory. So that's the situation in Vietnam. Moving on to the next slide. Related to EPR, the Article 54 of the Environmental Protection Law, as well as Article 55, are specific articles that talk about those aspects. And so, based on the extended producer responsibility, a circular economy needs to be adopted by private companies doing business. Moving on. And for your information, in Vietnam, when we talk about extended producer responsibility, these are the products slash materials that are that require EPR. And in 2024, packaging, batteries, and lubricating oil, as well as tires, for all those four areas, EPR has become mandatory. Next slide, please. And since I don't have much time, but still very briefly, I'd like to talk about how EPR is going to be realized. So target product manufacturers have either two options that they can opt for. One is described on the top, the Vietnam EP Fund, the Environment Protection Fund. They can make monetary contributions to that, or otherwise develop a recycling plan. The producer develops this plan, and based on that plan, implements recycling. So it's either or. In the future, in ASEAN nations, recycling and this EPR mechanism will probably expand, and this might be the approach taken there. And after my presentation, the member from Fujifilm will explain about the mechanism that they have, and I think developing these systems will be very important. And then there are PRO, pro third parties, and of course, Japan has this EPR mechanism as well, but Europe as well as Canada are more advanced in this area, though they have a slightly different mechanism. Next slide, please. And there's information management. This is something talked about from Kenya regarding information sharing. But in Vietnam, this is fully understood, and already they have a homepage or website what producers are appropriately recycling materials, the project management. Um, Contributions are being collected, like I said earlier. What's the status around the collected contributions? All that information is collected through this EPR.BN homepage and website. So that mechanism, that system is already in place. Now, last but not least, um, key points regarding the circular economy policy. And I have 5 points here. Sharing information, monitoring, having regular meetings for that, and having a circular economy related report, and starting with whatever you can do. In other words, trial. And for a complete circular economy, you need to be you need to start with raw inputs for all products, but you can't do everything from the beginning. I mean, it's the challenge for Japan too. So you need to try things out under the circular economy. So start with what you can and share that with other stakeholders through JICA projects, trials by private companies, as well as other systems that the developing nations have, as well as at regional level for ASEAN as a whole. So cooperate and share between the relevant stakeholders. That probably becomes very key. So Fujifilm Business Innovation will present about the circular economy contributions that they plan to make. And I think cooperation with policies could perhaps be considered at this opportunity. And I think that's my last slide. And with that, I will hand over to the presentation by Fujifilm Business Innovation Corporation. And Mr. Takahagi will now present for the activities by Fujifilm.
Thank you for the introduction. I come from Fujifilm Business Innovation. My name is Takahagi. Well, first of all, I represent private sector, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak here. So, just briefly about myself at Fujifilm Business Innovation Corporation, I am in charge of developing recycling businesses. So I'll talk about remanufacturing of our equipment, and we are in charge of it. So I like to talk about a project of remanufactured product in ASEAN countries. Moving on, these are items on the agenda. Moving on. First of all, let me talk about Fujifilm Group. What do we do? 2017 in August, SVP, Sustainable Value Plan 2030, was announced as Fujifilm Group. And one of the pillar is to promote recycling of resources. And more specifically, we're trying to reduce the waste generated by 30% compared to 2013. So we have imaging, healthcare, materials, and business innovation that I will be talking about. As some of you may know, this originates from Fuji Xerox. Moving on. So this is the material recycling at Fujifilm Business Innovation. So at the basis of our business is manufacturing and sales of multifunction printers, MFPs. And most clients or customers are on lease contract for about 5 years, and they use MFPs. So after 5 years, most of the time, we can collect our MFP from our customers. And we remanufacture the collected MFPs and sell to different customers as new MFP. So this is our remanufacturing business. And through this business, we are trying to reduce the waste as much as possible so that we can promote resource recycling. So that's handled by the team that I belong to. Moving on to the next page. So it says here remanufactured MFPs. So let me talk about remanufactured MFPs. It says secondhand or used machine, but this remanufactured product secures the quality level of new product. It's not secondhand at all. The parts are being remanufactured and set the counter to 0. So it is completely the same quality level as new product. And in order to assure that, yes, it requires a lot of technologies, but we manage information about that product, and also high level of technologies are being used to remanufacture our MFPs. And as you can see on this chart, maintenance, quality, function, and environment, and new and another new is remanufactured, like I said, and secondhand. So when it comes to maintenance and quality, a remanufactured product is completely the same as new. And from a PLC perspective, for environment, it is to utilize components as much as possible. So perhaps it is even more eco-friendly than the new product. So why is this possible? So I'll just be very brief about technical aspect of remanufacturing. In order to come up with a new product, well, there are so-called requirements for remanufacturing. So we have to reflect the requirements in design. So, for instance, at a design stage, make it long life or make it easy to disassemble, and also make it so that it is easy to sort. So already this is embedded within the design so that it would be easier for us to remanufacture the used product. So quality and the cost are achieved at the same time. So there is a catalog life, but once we put our products on the market, there are hundreds and thousands of our product. So we use this data, the big data, so that we will be able to get the most of the parts that still has life. And by combining those parts which are still useful, we put together the remanufactured product. So that's how we achieve the quality and profitability that is equivalent to the new product. And we are a profit maker, of course, so the business itself has to be sustainable. So that was the summary on this slide. Moving on to the next slide. So, as was mentioned, why Vietnam? The current remanufactured product is being produced in Japan, but we want to expand the business. So in ASEAN countries, we wanted to do the remanufacturing. In doing so, Vietnam became the first candidate, there's no doubt about it, but there were three reasons. First of all, the target of carbon neutrality. Vietnam was one of the first ASEAN countries to announce the target, and it is placing a lot of effort on circular economy. And as you can see in this diagram, in Asia, yes, we sell our products, and geographically, Vietnam is at the very center. So we can even collect used machine from other countries, and it can serve as a hub for distribution. And another point is, honestly speaking, we do have our own factory producing new products, so we wanted to utilize that factory as well. So that is why we selected Vietnam and driving this effort to expand our remanufacturing business. And so that we can become an established leader in carbon neutrality along with Vietnam. And that's what we hope to do. So that will be all from my end. Thank you very much.
Mr. Adachi, Mr. Takahagi, thank you very much. And thank you for listening to the presentations. Let's have a Q&A. So question to Mr. Miyazaki. In supporting developing countries, human resource development and financial support are extremely important. For financial support, compared with ODA, funding and investment from private sector, I think, becoming more important. And what do you think are necessary to promote and accelerate that kind of financial support from the private sector? Thank you for the question. That's a very important question. So in my presentation, I talked about the current situation, saying that the ODA is not growing, and so private sector's direct investment and entry into the market going to be very important toward the future. That's what I said. So how to promote, accelerate such initiatives? Well, in developing countries, as I mentioned a little bit in my talk, there are issues in each country and region. So to accurately grasp what are the challenges is, I think, most important. So there are major global trends, but for each country and region, there are specific issues, challenges, and the differences in culture. And so how they respond would be different by each country. So by having clear understanding of what are the issues, you can introduce countermeasures, new products and new technologies. They will be most effective to meet those challenges. Unless that is the case, you will not be able to continue a sustainable business. So the first thing is to understand what are the challenges accurately. That leads to sustainable operations. That's the first point. And the other thing, well, in developing countries, well, we collaborate with various private companies, and it's often the case that the understanding of regulation becomes key and becomes a major challenge as well. So not just the business customs, but the rules and regulations different by each country. Unless you have deep understanding of that, you won't be able to conduct business even if you bring in those companies. So you have to understand that well. And in some cases, JICA can be involved so that we can facilitate the operations. That is perhaps one way to promote such activities. That's all for myself. Thank you. Thank you. Next question to Mr. Adachi. So, in promoting circular economy in developing countries, you need to develop the legal frameworks. And so various systems and frameworks developed in Japan, are they utilized in those countries? And I think that there are different circumstances in each of the developing countries. If there are good cases that you can share, please do. Thank you. That's a very difficult question. For circular economy, what are the concrete models? And are there cases where the Japanese system were utilized? Well, in the morning, we heard from Yokohama City that concerning recycling package ERP system from Japan. Well, it's not a complete one, but for the collection operation done by the municipalities, the producers will provide contributions to third-party organizations to conduct recycling. So there's that kind of system already established. And in Vietnam and other ASEAN countries, through visits, they learn that those systems are in place. And JICA has provided projects for the waste management. And I think in ASEAN countries and also in Africa or Bangladesh, that kind of knowledge is being shared. I think that is the current situation. And so what's realized in Japan, the recycling initiatives in Japan, some of that is used in Vietnam. That kind of a system or institution is introduced in Vietnam. And so by comparing Japanese experience and what's actually being done in Vietnam, you can see what the difference are. And there's a lot of lessons that can be learned. A lot of things are being done bottom up. And as I said, for paper containers, already municipalities collect such materials. And based on that, in order to check the recycling rate, the various initiatives have been conducted in Japan. That's what's unique about Japan. So in emerging countries, the systems to be introduced should be a workable one. In the past, if informal sector was collecting, then make use of that informal sector. So the well-developed system in Japan, how to introduce into the other countries and apply it in the most effective way. I think that's important. Sorry for the long answer. Thank you very much. Next, Takahagi-sama. Takai-san, please.
So printers seems to be suitable for remanufacturing. I believe that is a type of product that is suitable for remanufacturing. Is that a correct understanding? So are there any special characteristics of remanufacturing products that are suitable for remanufacturing products? And also outside of printers, can you share with us any product group or industrial sectors in which remanufacturing is underway? Thank you very much for the question. In fact, when it comes to home appliance equipment, yes, we do research, but MFPs are easy to remanufacture amongst many of these products. As I mentioned earlier, a little bit, a 5-year lease is sort of like a foundation, and the customers replace after 5 years. But for instance, home appliances, as long as they're in use, um, we keep on using them for like 10 years or 15 years, but maybe after like 20 years, it will be difficult to remanufacture. So that's goes to the recycling path. So for reuse, we have to turn another cycle. So in that case, MFP is suitable. Also, consumables will be exchanged and do the maintenance, and the product is quite usable. So I mentioned that the counter is set to 0 once again. For instance, like used cars, the mileage does not become 0, but we improve the quality, and that is why we set the counter to 0, because it could be used as same as new product. So it's rare. I can't think of any other home appliance equipment. Yes, you see used equipments, but they're not calling it as new product, remanufactured product. So I think this is unique. Not only us, but our competitors are also into remanufacturing business. So I think it's quite unique. Thank you.
It's time, so we'd like to end this session. Thank you very much.